Welcome to another episode of Love Living Local 315. We are your hosts, Scott and Kelly Greats, and today we are excited to have Colin LaReaux, a Utica-based attorney, real estate investor, co-owner of a gym, cancer survivor who's turning purpose into action across every corner of this community. From law to fitness to local development, Colin is all in on building something meaningful right here at home. I'm not going to lie, man. Yesterday I had a bad day. And I was feeling very overwhelmed by my schedule. And this morning, I woke up and started reading everything you were doing. And I said to Kelly, I'm like, well, now I feel like I'm not doing enough.
Well, yeah.
So,
it was reassuring to him.
So the timing of this is fantastic.
Perfect.
Because we need to know how you do all of this. But let's start at the beginning.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
You're from Utica.
Correct, yep.
You took off for a little bit, came back, talked to us about what happened while you were away, what you learned, those experiences, and ultimately what brought you back to Utica.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I grew up here, big family here, and even when I was gone, it was just either to college or to law schools back every summer. It's always been home. But I, fell victim a little bit to that Utica mentality of, there's nothing going on here. I can't wait to go somewhere else. But anywhere else I was, it wasn't home, right? So I think leaving kind of opens your eyes to, there's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of places. There's maybe more exciting, but at the end of the day, where are you comfortable? Where do you want to be? And Utica's always had that for me. So, at a drop of a hat, I can be anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. I mean, time allowing, obviously, but you got to have a home base, and Utica's always felt that way. So it's been good to be back.
That's awesome. So your time away from Utica shaped how you saw its potential as a community as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So you kind of knew there were things missing that you sort of wanted to build here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And implement here. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And actually, I was in Brockport, just outside of Rochester, a couple weeks ago, just a little soccer reunion. And I was laughing with my friends how Buffalo's got a lot going on. Rochester's got a lot going on. Syracuse, Albany, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, Utica has this kind of lack, and I think it's been coming back a bit. We're getting more industry. There's people coming in. So it's not so much that I want to create something. I just want to be a part of it. This is my community, and I can either, be a part of the problem complaining about it or part of a semi-solution that says, how do we make things better? If no one else is doing it, what can we do to, help the people we care about in this area? So it's kind of been the reason there.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit older, but we're not too far apart. Growing up here, it was, like you said, the stigma, the armpit of New York.
There's nothing to do.
And let's be honest, there was a dark period, right? Probably 10 years or so where you were questioning, and we went away too and came back to raise a family and back to our roots. But, ultimately, it's interesting, and we'll move into the real estate piece because we've got a little Airbnb in North Utica, and we always ask guests like what they're coming in for, and the amount of people that are coming here just because is weird to us.
That's reassuring to hear. And that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
And he was shocked. He's like, so they're just coming here for
people are like, but we've never been to Utica.
We want to
check it out.
explore the city. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that does make sense. We're at the foothills of the Adirondacks. And I mean,
a lot of festivals and
finish your thought with
obviously
the buildings.
the Nexus Center has drawn a lot of out-of-towners, which is awesome. And you saw it beforehand with the infrastructure, right? We were like, why are all these chain restaurants and hotels being built? Like, wait. And then all of a sudden it started to make sense.
That's what one of the sayings in real estate is, follow the Starbucks. And I'm just like, well, we got a couple Starbucks.
Yeah.
What's happening here, right? But
let's move into real estate because that's a passion of yours. What sparked that?
It's a way to earn. They call it passive income, but you guys know
it's not passive.
Passive income. But I think what really sparked it was, I'm an attorney. I was in court all the time. I have a daughter. She's 7 now. COVID hit, so she was a year and a half. Court shut down, and I'm thinking, how do I earn a living if I'm, not working? And how do I make it so I'm not wearing a suit and tie and one of those 85-year-old attorneys who's, at risk of falling up or down the stairs? I don't want to be that. I wanted to have some more freedom. And, so I had a lot more time during COVID. I started reading the books and listening to the podcasts, but also just kind of, I dipped my toes in a little bit. And people need housing. That's never going to change. And it's not about trying to raise the highest rent ever and milk every dime out of it. It's about saying there's an abandoned house, there's an abandoned building. Nobody likes that. But if I could make something that can earn me some income and allow someone to have a place to live, whether it's college students or travel nurses or a family of four, it's nice to see a property being kept up, improves the value of the neighborhood. And I mean, if you got an abandoned house next to yours, your own home isn't going to appreciate. But if you got the nice one with flowers in the pots out front, it makes the whole neighborhood better. So.
And it is visiting your real estate website, which Jay will link all the info at the end of. You offer short-term housing. We have a ton of people that come to the area now for work, whether it's a month or a month and a half. That I love on the website how you say, why would you stay in a hotel when you can stay in a home? So that's a unique thing that you realize is traveling nursing is huge, especially with our new hospital. So, and I did look at some of the homes, and you have them all over, not just in Utica, but.
Yeah, so it's one of those, my mom was a nurse for, 25, 30 years at St. E's, and I had friends that traveled, guys from Utica going to Arizona, and, they'd stay in these, just not hotels, they'd be in condos or something somewhere, but it was one of those, you could stay at the Best Western or the Red Roof Inn, or for the same price or generally less, you can have your own private space with your own kitchen, privacy. So, there's an opportunity there. And, again, it's not about squeezing every penny out of someone. It's saying, how do I keep a safe, stable, clean, nice environment to get a good quality traveling professional? You provide it, you build it. And, so a little bit of everything. We started with some college rentals over near Utica College at the time. Utica University. I don't know if I'll ever get to that.
Yeah, same here. It's still the Utica odd, too. By the way.
Exactly.
Sorry, Adirondack.
It's always going to be the odd. And, you figure out what works or what you like better. You guys said you do some Airbnbs. Sometimes it's great. You meet some amazing people. And sometimes you're pulling your hair out. Like, what am I doing? What's going on with this? So, it's a little bit of diversification. When the short terms are going great and the midterms with the travel nurses, maybe your long terms you have a tenant that's not paying, or maybe you have the great long term tenants that are there for years and paying down your mortgages, and your short terms, are just sitting there, tumbleweeds. So it's kind of nice to have that different
diversity.
Yeah, and you can always switch them too.
And we just it was too funny. We had a guest check out on Monday, and they said it was their first time renting an Airbnb, and they were very nervous about it. Like, not older people. I don't want to say that.
They were older.
They were older, and they were like, this was amazing. This was our first experience. And the other thing for people that haven't tried to stay at an Airbnb or that are scared, you're supporting local business people too, because like we own the building. Why would you be giving money to a Marriott or a Best Western when you could be, renting something instead? I don't know. So yeah, it's definitely. I think a lot more people are trying it than before.
Just to piggyback on that, we've been fortunate to stay at some really elite properties, hotel chains, right, in different places, and you get concierge service, and you actually get someone to talk to and explain the area and guide you and provide you with little niceties. You are that concierge service for these people. Like, you can give them insights, and we've got that welcome book with the local restaurants and where to find breakfast and different things that they normally wouldn't get, and we leave them snacks and beverages, and it's just that piece of it that you don't get at the local Hilton.
Yeah.
Yep, and like you have the welcome book. And how excited are you when someone says, "Hey, Scott, where should I go?" You get the opportunity to just say, "Oh, this place is great."
I get messages like that all the time, and I love it. I love that they're asking for, and then I send it, and they're like, "That restaurant was great."
Yep.
Or my kids had such a good time at the zoo.
And
or
you're a networker, you're a relationship guy. It allows us to promote people that we do business with, and we want to support locally too.
100%. I mean, real estate's it's a relationship business, like most of them, but it's always people, right? So you got a building, you got a house, you got something where someone's going to live in, but it's that relationship. It's that trust that you're going to have a guest that's going to stay and love it and treat the place like home, with the risk of what if they don't. But I mean, it's a calculated risk, and you have to be prepared, and you still go forward with it because part of the process.
All right, here's the $1 million question, literally. Where do people start? Because you do consulting work in this area, and this is for nut jobs like us who just jump into things and figure it out. And I realize that's not everybody, right? And so this is a scary world, real estate. And there's so many different thoughts and theories and, leverage and use other people's money. And do I go foreclosure and try to fix? Because you can get yourself into some real
quick
trouble financially. Exactly. So what is your best advice? And I know it's probably case by case, but for someone who wants to start in this space.
In terms of real estate in general?
Yeah, real estate in general.
I think you have to really do the numbers. Tariffs, I was just listening to a podcast on the way up here actually about how they're increasing prices on cabinets and a lot of like the smaller things that you wouldn't think, but if you're paying 50% more for cabinets and you're trying to flip a house, now your profit margin is shrinking, right? So you have to really understand, and if you're going to run an Airbnb, you got to look at some of the comps around. If they're charging $200 a night, okay, that's pretty good. What do you got to pay your cleaners? What are your taxes, your insurance, your principal, your interest? What are all those factors? And if you're squeaking by, it's a lot of work. It's not passive income, right? But if you know the numbers and you have, if there's a solid tenant base and there's a reason for people coming, even if it's just to come, it's worth a shot. And again, like the best thing about real estate is you want to run a short-term rental, you're going to kill it on Airbnb, you're going to make all this money because you saw people talking about it on a podcast, right? And then a year in and you're barely breaking even, and you're doing a ton of work because you're doing the cleaning yourself or you're paying your cleaner to come over and their guests are breaking stuff inadvertently, maybe, who knows. You say, all right, I had my fill with that, and let me try some midterm, and you meet some great travel nurses. Or maybe that's not going well. All right, let's just rent it out. And there's always going to be a need for apartments or homes. You do your due diligence, and you find a decent tenant, and then suddenly, even if you're not making money, someone's paying your taxes, someone's paying your insurance, someone else is paying your mortgage down, and you get some benefits of it that way. So, as long as you kind of go in with an open eye that it's still going to be an asset that you own, and if you can exit it one way or the other, if it doesn't go great, you're going to be okay. But if you go in with those rose-colored lenses and that's all you have, you can kind of,
But I'm just saying that a lot of people, when they buy a home or a building, they have this expectation that they're going to make money on it. And in a way, you can't always just have that in your brain that you're going to make money on it. If you try what you need to try at that building and you can get out not losing money, that's sometimes a win, is all I'm saying.
If it was, we're going to sell this place and whatever profit or whatever you want to call it, the funds that come from that sale, what are we doing with it? If there was no plan, if it was park them in a bank and earn 0.25% interest, maybe you don't sell. But if you say, I got other plans, we're going to fix up another property, or we're going to
buy another property,
this business, or we're going to, it might be as simple as we're going to go on a vacation because we haven't done it in 15 years, right? Yeah. So if there's a purpose for it, I like that, right? Maybe
we go on plenty of vacations, and the money is being rolled into
and the business is being put into the next property. So yeah, okay.
But my point is, we're losing money because we're taking less than what we paid for it.
But are you gaining opportunity, right? So kind of funny. I had a place in Ilion as well. Bought it at a good price. Put some money into it. I have great contractors who are like, it's a lot more work than I'm charging you for, but they're great guys. But it just wasn't making the money it needed to, and I ended up selling it for about what I paid. And again, I had that thought too. I'm like, I'm not a real estate investor if I'm not making any money. I went through all this work and all these trips out to Ilion to check on it, and late night calls, and had to evict somebody. This is stupid. I actually lost time and money, but it was like, well, I got all of it back, put it somewhere else, and I don't have to think about it anymore, right? Yeah. And for the 2 years we held it, we got some tax breaks. They're not breaks. You're still paying taxes, but it's offsets against other income. So, there's always a way you can make it work. It's just kind of shifting that mindset of, real estate appreciates. I'm always going to make money. Maybe, but, it was worth it while you had it. And as long as you have a purpose for those funds, you can, I think that's a win.
Thank you, Colin. It'll give us something to talk about tonight.
And selfishly, we do this just for our own sake.
Why do anything?
Other people have the same questions we do. All right, let's talk about the Speaks at Faxton Hall. It's bold. It's a creative project, speakeasy style short-term rental. The pictures are amazing for people that,
Appreciate it.
What inspired this idea?
Again, this brings it back to community and just this area. So I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, about 4 years, 3 years ago. Anyway, my brother wanted to start a gym. So we're looking around at spaces, and it's hard to find a good commercial space that works for a lot of things. And at that time, Faxton Hall, Tom Powers owned it. The upstairs is just a huge open auditorium, right? It had some drop ceilings, but they can go up to 15 feet. Just big open gym floor. So I looked at it at that time thinking, could this work? And not really for a gym on Varick Street. They showed me the place. Like, yeah, we're thinking about turning this into some speakeasy apartments, maybe one, maybe two. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. And spent the whole time just talking about how fun that could be. And you're across from the brewery and you're on Varick Street. And at that time, still Varick was, maybe it's not where it should be, I still think, and maybe we're coming back. But so that was, Tom's kind of plan. And I said, it's not going to work for the gym, right? So my brother opened a gym somewhere else. And about 2 years later, it goes on the market. So I texted Tom and I said, hey, can I take that idea and run with it? What do you think? He's like, by all means. So bought the property and got right to work. We, turned the whole upstairs into 2 separate apartments, turned the kitchen into a bathroom, turned these old like public bathrooms, like that would be in an auditorium into, a huge like tiled walk-in shower with the soaking tub. So, and then it was just a lot of fun, with that idea. It's not that I'm particularly fond of only one area or era of history, but everyone has that, like that Great Gatsby
Sure.
and, the Flappers and the Roaring Twenties. It's fun, right? So it wasn't, all right, travel nurse wants blackout curtains. Okay, we got a nice comfy bed from Amazon. It wasn't like, no, how do we find something vintage? Let's go down to Bouckville. And my mom loves this stuff, so she's, constantly sending me, look what I found at this antique sale. I'm like, how are you going to fit that in your car? I'm not, but you got to get down here in the next 20 minutes. All right. So it was just a lot of fun kind of furnishing it. And what I realized with the short-term rentals is, Airbnbs is, if people are coming to Utica, they have maybe not a reason, but they like the area. They want to see something new, something different. And if you're giving everybody the same thing, they are just going to go to a hotel because that's rinse and repeat. But if you give them something a little bit more unique, a reason to visit this particular space, I think you're going to do better.
Yeah, it's cool. And we're both kind of history buffs too, right? Like we like the old historic things that have a story, and that probably comes when we went away. We were in Northern Virginia, and everything was just cookie cutter. I mean, it was like 6 different versions of the same house, that have been built in the last 10 years. What is the history of that building?
Super cool history there. I mean, it was built by Faxton, who they named, Faxton Hospital after, and he built it as he owned the mills, which are now apartments, Globe Mills, I think it was across the street. And he was kind of a forefront. I think he was actually a mayor at one point for a brief time during one of the wars. But he had, he was ahead of his time, and he had his factory workers who were probably doing 12, 14 hours a day. But he wanted them to have an education as well, or their families too. So he had this building built for the express purpose of the workers and their families being able to go to school at different times so they wouldn't have to just be, churning away at the mill. So it was a school for a while. Then he had it in his will. I think he dedicated it had to be for education purposes or a library. So it was a library for a little while. And then, tuberculosis was a big thing way back when. So they had these big open air windows so kids could go to school if they had tuberculosis. And the thought was,
air it out.
Open air might help. I think there was, some maybe more medicinal purposes that could have done better. Eventually they did, luckily. But that was, going back to the 1860s all the way through the early 1900s. And then you got to like the 1950s, and now Varick Street was there. And there's cars zooming up and down. It's not horse and buggies. And the mills are shutting down, and there's not kids that have to go to school. So they had this legal battle where it was, his will said it had to be for one purpose. Right? It was part of the school system for a while. And it was like, yeah, but now we're 100 years into the future. Kids aren't going to school at night. They can't just walk across the street safely without risk of getting run over, right? So it was now, what do we do? So there was a legal challenge, and eventually it got sold to Knights of St. John, excuse me, I almost said Columbus. They weren't the ones who brought the lawsuit, but they ended up with the building. So then it was Knights of St. John, their kind of headquarters, so, the fraternal activities there, and they would do bingo and have their meetings and do, all kinds of whatever they would do there. But then again, things change, right? People stopped joining these organizations, it stopped being such a community-based hub, and it kind of just sat vacant for a while, I think. And then, Tom Powers bought it, I think, because it was next to the Harp, which he owns.
Yep.
He had additional parking. He had plans on it because he's the same type of guy. He loves this area. He wants this area to succeed. He doesn't want to see a rundown building. He says, how can I make it better? So, yeah, that whole history of, a guy who just had a lot of money in 1867 said, I'm going to build a building to help this community, going all the way up to someone saying, I own the bar next door, and a vacant building helps nobody. The brewery's here. Let's make this better. And then me, who says that's an excellent opportunity, and let me take a stab at it,
restore its history and improve upon it. Frankly, And,
it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
a lot of money too, I'm sure.
If it was easy, everybody would do
That's
it,
right? Let's talk about other than the short-term rental, because you do events. Is that
That's the hope. So,
okay, not yet.
That's the lower portion.
I saw
right?
Turnbull. Did Turnbull have a party there?
Turnbull did.
He had some VIP access
exactly.
there.
Now that it's over, we're not at risk of getting in trouble. But Stephen Turnbull's a good friend of mine. He had a diaper party, which I didn't even know what a diaper party was.
Yeah.
You guys just dressed like togas except diapers. It's a little strange. But the downstairs was just a bar, right? And it still is. And I'm at a point in my life where 10 years ago, 15, I'm like, I'll run a bar. That'll be great. I don't have time for that. I don't have the desire to do it. But it is it's a nice 2,000 square foot area that could be a lot of things. Whether you want to have like a, Jeffersonian dinner and just have a lot of people and have a conversation to talk about, or a small diaper party, bridal shower, something like that. So we're hoping to kind of create a small space for
social functions,
intimate gatherings, nothing, not a big rager, but if you want to get your guys together and watch your favorite college football team on a Saturday, bring 15 guys down, watch the game. You don't have to anger your wife or your husband, depending,
Yep.
So that's in the works. But it's, there's only so many hours in the day. So we're hoping to
social
get there.
club. Yeah.
And that's, going into the whole liquor license thing. I thought it was easy. Like, we'll just, let people...
You're an attorney. Nothing's easy.
That is hard, but they have you can hire people to come in and bring the liquor, right, with a license.
That's what I thought. You got to
No?
have your own before they can do that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I thought I could be like, Scott's got a license. You come in, you cater this
Yeah.
party. Now you got to have your own license to enable that.
What if they bring
Well,
their
you're
own?
a lawyer. It's got to be easy for them to approve you for a liquor license,
It's
right?
still a process. I can't. I keep believing I can just snap my fingers and make things happen. Turns out
You're an
the
optimist.
world doesn't work that way. Yeah.
They can't bring their own? How does that work with restaurants? Because we'll go to some restaurants that don't have a liquor license. They'll let us bring our own bottle
So
of
then
wine.
you got you have a commercial kitchen, so you got the health, so you have to have all of these different standards met. And to get a commercial kitchen, then I got to get a whole
you
new
just
system.
can't do things okay, you mentioned the gym briefly, but let's talk a little bit about your co-owner of Fit Training with your brother. Fit stands for Fitness Inclusive Training. You offer a bunch of, you're at CrossFit. You offer personal training. You want to talk a little bit about your role in that, and how do you see the parallel between helping people strengthen themselves and helping the community grow too? I think that's pretty cool.
I've been involved in, those communities from Long Island when I was down there. I have friends that run gyms, around the country. And, my brother's real passionate about it. I'm behind the scenes. I work out there. I get to, joke around and hang out. There's a lot of great people. It's a community in and of itself. But he runs the show. My role is just making sure, all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and that we have a, safe, open area for people to come, get fit, obviously. But it's not necessarily about, lifting the heaviest weights or running the fastest mile. It's more about coming to an area where you're comfortable working out. And that's why group fitness tends to work. There's discipline, there's drive, there's motivation, but it's real tough to get up at 5 a.m. in February in upstate New York and go to the gym, go to Planet Fitness every day by yourself.
Right.
Where you have 4 other people who are going to text you and be like, where were you? Did you see what happened today? Oh my God, you should have seen the pink shorts Peyton, my brother, was wearing. Just some stuff to laugh about and a reason. We have people that'll come and be like, I'm just going to drink coffee today. And they'll hang out on the couch. They'll pet a dog.
That's an option. I'll sign up with that plan.
I told you would be interested in this.
Shout out to our mutual friend, Jimmy Falone. Jimmy has he'll do the 6 a.m. class. Shows up at about, 5:50. I think he naps on the couch until about like 6:10.
And videos it.
Yeah, takes a couple videos, has a drink of coffee, and then he'll, but that's Jimmy's routine. It's get out of bed, go sleep on the gym couch for a little bit, and then start working out. So, the idea was to really just have a place where you can participate, be a part of a community, get as fit as you're willing and want to be, but without that pressure of, here's what you have to do, and if you can't meet these standards, you're not able to do it. And I think that's what, group fitness, there's a lot of great ones in this area. Mohawk Valley Wellness is great. They do an incredible job of bringing people in and offering them, it's a great program for you. Why don't you try this, or we can recommend this. But it's really, we want to help you succeed when you want to succeed. Right? So
That's awesome.
Yeah, let's go into because we haven't covered everything that you do, but let's go into
All right,
to 315K for the Cure. Give us a backstory to that.
So 315K for the Cure is a pediatric cancer foundation. When I was 13, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, which is a type of lymphatic cancer. And, out of the blue, my parents there's 4 of us. I just had Peyton, who's the youngest. He's 12 years younger than I am, so he was barely a year old. And suddenly, like me, he was playing soccer 7 days a week, chemotherapy, radiation, so complete shock to the system. For me, I don't necessarily remember all of it, but as a parent now, I just can only imagine how scary that was for my parents. They got 3 other kids at home. They got to worry about bringing me out to Syracuse, where I had to treat. A success story because of that hospital, upstate Golisano. I mean, I went chemo, radiation. I'm considered cured. I used to get tested every year, then every 2 years, every 5, and now they're basically like, if you're not feeling great, come in, but otherwise. So anyway, like I said, I moved around for a bit. I was downstate. I came back, and at the time I didn't have a job yet, so I was like, what am I doing with myself? I'm couch surfing, and a good friend of mine, Brooke Hoffman, now Brooke McDonald, she had cancer as well. She was 18, I think, or 17 or 18. And she treated with upstate Golisano. So I shot her a text and I was like, do you want to do something? She's like, yeah, what do we do? I was like, I don't know. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have a concept, but it was, she's got a great family. She's got a great support system. So do I. So we started these just group runs, and we sold like T-shirts that J.J. Gould made for us out of the back of a trunk at that point. And then we said, all right, so what's next? And we met a good friend of mine, Sean Kruger, and he had a bunch of guys. He was involved with the Chive. I don't know if you remember that.
It's big.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
So he was like, for a while, he was involved with it, and he just had like a local chapter, which really just meant a lot of people that like to have fun and go to bars. But he was like, you want to have a party? I was like, all right, let's do it. And again, Tom Powers, I keep coming back to him. That's like the 3rd time, I think. He said, I love what you're doing. You're raising money for the Golisano Children's Hospital. How can I help? He said, Tom, we're going to have a halfway to St. Patrick's Day party. All right, done. So we did like 5 of those, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger every year. COVID took us down a little bit, but then, we had that infrastructure. So we went from, again, running a 5K and selling a T-shirt to, bigger parties. And now we kind of allow other people to give us ideas. And I think the biggest thing that 315K has done is it gives people an avenue. If you say, hey, do you want to help a kid with cancer? There's nobody that's going to say no. Right. I mean, but they just don't know how. Right. And if I say, hey, we're going to go do 100 burpees at a gym, I don't want to do that, but can I give you money? Yeah, okay. Or I don't want to do that, but you know what? A friend of mine is having a benefit dinner. Can we use some of those funds? Absolutely. So it's really just an avenue to, we say you don't necessarily need awareness. If you're not aware that cancer affects everybody in one way or another, I don't know what rock you're living under. And I'm not going to cure it myself. I don't think Brooke's going to do it. Maybe that's what she's working on these days. I don't know. But if we can get a bunch of good people together to help a cause, it's a win. And, selfishly, it makes me feel good about doing it. Sure. And selfishly, it makes when you donate, you're helping someone, right? But it makes you feel better. Yeah. And if it gives you a reason to get off the couch and feel better about yourself, I think it's a win. So yeah, we 315K, we've been around for about 10 years now. We've raised well over $100,000. The vast majority of it's gone to the upstate Golisano Children's Hospital in Syracuse. We've donated to individual families in this area. So it's something I'm really proud of. It's something that's fun to be a part of, and it's kind of just it coasts, which is great because then we can just fire it up anytime somebody has an idea. You know, I got a text the other day from a friend. She said, hey, there's a kid out in Clinton. Do you think you could help? I'm like, yeah, well, what do we do? You know, put me in touch. Let's figure something out. And we still don't have a plan for it yet, but there will be, you know, some event to help him, to help a family, to help the hospitals. So.
The hard part, as you know, is building the framework, getting the legal piece done. A 501c3 is not easy to establish or maintain, and building the community. And so now when these things come up, you've got the framework, you've got the structure, you've got the tax benefits to the donation, and that's huge. Take us back to 13, right? We're parents of 3, and you know we feel what you're saying there from the parent side. But as a 13-year-old, not so much at the time, but now, like I guess looking back, how much did that experience change the way you approach life?
You know, it's everyone's going to face some type of adversity one way or another throughout their lives. I think maybe I'm incredibly fortunate that mine was at 13, or the biggest adversity so far anyway. And I'm healthy, and, you know, I have nothing to worry about, right? But it really strengthened, I think, my family's always been strong and together, but just the community in general. You know, it was people willing to support, and I think they recognize bad things can happen, and, you know, you just got to get through them. So I think from a life perspective, when things get difficult, when you're like, this is a terrible day, I'm stressed out, you're like, things could get worse. I mean, I was 13, I got to play soccer all the way through, I just didn't have hair doing it, but there was 2-year-olds walking around with IVs in their arms, there's, you know, kids getting surgeries, and I mean, I felt incredibly lucky to just be there without hair and sitting in bed watching, I think I watched Sandlot probably more times than I can count. I could probably quote the whole movie, because while I'm there's a 6-month-old, or there's 4, you know, family of 10, and, you know, 2 of them are in there. So it was really the wake-up call that, you know, things happen to you, but, you know, you just got to deal with them sometimes.
When we decided to move back here, and I know that thankfully for you, growing up and having a big family, I'm sure your neighbors were like your family members. And when your family was going through this, you have people that live around you that support you and treat you like family. And ultimately, that's really what drove us to move back here, is we have a child and we can't do it alone. And we live in an area where our community is so important that they almost become family members when you need them to. So it's awesome.
What's the saying? It takes a
Takes
village,
a village.
right?
Yeah,
And,
for sure.
And it really does.
You know, and we're from Frankfurt, and so it's always funny when my kids are like, how is he my uncle? How's he my cousin? I'm like, well, he's not, but we're all...
Or when they come home and I'm like, I know where you were, and they're like, how did you know that? And I'm like, well, so-and-so called me and told me you were there. So yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, I think, for kids. So my gosh, across law, real estate, fitness, philanthropy, what's the common thread that ties all these together for you?
You know, I think it's a willingness to do good. You know, like I said, you got to have a purpose. And if you don't know what that purpose is, you know, help somebody do something else, and maybe you'll find it. And for me, it's just been, I could do nothing and I'd feel real bad about myself, but I need to be active. I need to do things. And if I can help somebody else along the way, you know, I think that's the added benefit. And, you know, in this community, there's nothing you can do that doesn't, well, if you do it right, if you do everything the right way, it's going to benefit you one way or the other. Yeah. So if I'm doing something 4315K for the Cure at the gym, it might make somebody else join the gym. And does that help the gym? Absolutely. But does it help that person become maybe a better version of themselves for themselves and their family? Does it help them fight disease? Absolutely. Or if I'm doing something real estate related, it's a relationship thing. So I might have a short-term rental to a travel nurse, and she might say, hey, you know, so-and-so at the hospital is looking for a place to stay, you know, indefinitely. So then suddenly you have a connection with a hospital who's sending you referrals. Or, hey, I'm a great tenant. I'm thinking about buying a place. Could you help? I know you're a lawyer. So everything kind of segues, and you don't get that unless you're involved in the community. Yeah. And again, if you're involved in the community the wrong way, maybe it's not going to help. But, like, you know, you guys are doing a lot of amazing things, and it only helps.
That's a great answer, okay. and it is. There's no bad relationship, right? I mean, this is allowed us to meet so many amazing people like yourself, and who knows what the future holds. But I'm guessing at some point we'll probably be connected now and be able to help one another in some capacity. And really, old man knowledge here. Your worth, right? Everyone, when we're young, we think about money, right? What can I do to make money? I want to advance my career. The older I get, the more I realize if you just help people solve problems, you'll always be of value.
Yep.
And the bigger the problem you solve, the more money you'll make. But, start with what Colin just said, which is, just look to help people. Mm-hmm. It's really not that hard. We overcomplicate a lot of things. All right, I can talk to you forever. So we're at 40 minutes now, but you've invested your time, your money, your energy into so many different things in the community. What excites you most about the future of Central New York?
I don't want to say it's got nowhere to go but up, because we're not at rock bottom, right? But I mean, there's opportunities, there's things going on. Syracuse, which is only 40 minutes from here, you guys are doing an incredible job of highlighting. There's a lot of stuff happening if you just are optimistic about it. If you wake up every day and you say, there's nothing happening, I don't know what to do. But if you're optimistic and you say, it's sunny out today, it could be raining. Well, okay, well, you hear people complaining it's too hot in October. What are you, nuts? It's going to be snow, right? But I think just I'm seeing people moving in. You said you got people coming in and they're not giving you, they wanted to visit. Yeah. So you're seeing younger people move in, buy homes because they have stable jobs. It didn't, they used to call it the brain drain. It seemed like everybody went to high school, college, and never came back. So, I'm excited just about, Utica becoming a bigger city, and not just Utica, just all the surrounding areas, with people wanting to be here, recognizing great place to raise your family. Mm-hmm. Real estate prices are relatively low compared to the rest of the country. We don't have significant droughts and crazy amounts of tornadoes and hurricanes and earthquakes, right? It's a great environment to be in, and where you can call your friends and your neighbors your family, or it's really an incredible place to be. So I'm just kind of excited about seeing that continue to grow. I'm an optimist, so I'm hoping, I'm hoping for the best. I don't necessarily plan for the worst, but I make sure that I'm prepared. If things don't work out, how can I pivot to something that does?
Yeah. Our last guest, Christy Mandor. I don't know if you know Christy out of New Hartford. But, I 100% am the person, and we both are, that are like, oh, we hate winter. Winter sucks. And she's like, you really need to reframe the mindset. I'm hearing you say the same thing without saying it, is if you just think everything's going to suck, it's going to suck, and so her thing was, find something that you can work on specifically in the winter.
You enjoy doing.
Yeah, or just, create some sort of cadence of weekly or whatever, something to look forward to or something different to do during that season, so it becomes something you're looking forward to. And to your point, as an optimist, if we keep complaining about it, then we're going to keep hating it. So this winter, that's our...
I'll segue with that. I got a good friend, Vince Wanick, and he would always say, like in April, like a bear coming out of hibernation, like, we survived. Feel good about it, right? We made it through another one. But, I played soccer all my life. I never skied. I didn't have time. My family weren't skiers. And I found myself every winter, my jobs were basically complaining and like looking out the window and going, oh, I'm going to go shovel again. So I'm going to just try skiing. And I love it. Like, I texted a friend after like the first day. I actually wasn't almost hitting every tree. I was like, I get it now. I get it why there's people that like are just so jacked up and excited about going skiing. And that was the thing. I was like, I could either sit here every winter and just wait for it to be nice again, or I could say, how can I see the snow and get excited about it? Yeah. And I don't think it has to be skiing, but
people are crazy about snowmobiling in this area too.
That one I still don't get.
I would feel very afraid. It's something that I probably wouldn't do.
An insurance agent and an attorney sitting at the table. Just be careful out there.
Don't worry, I'm not getting on a snowmobile, but I'm just saying people, they get excited for the snow.
Exactly.
For sure.
All right, let's bring it home. Lead us off.
We're doing our rapid fire?
Rapid fire.
Okay, Boilermaker, run it or cheer from the sidelines?
Oh, run it, 100%.
Yeah.
How many have you done?
I mean, if you ask the Boilermaker officially, like 18 maybe, but probably like 22.
That's
I think
funny.
a couple years I didn't register in time. And
all right, so
every year I don't run, I cry because I should be running. And I'm hard on myself with that. We watched our son run last year, and I definitely
wasn't
cried
mad
on the
about missing
parkway.
last year's. It was like 112.
But I was like, I definitely got very emotional because I wasn't running.
All right, now the hard-hitting question.
All right.
Keep this one in, Spina. Is the 5K the Boilermaker?
No.
It's part of Boilermaker weekend. I think is how we would say it. It's part of Boilermaker weekend.
I can't. I got certain pet peeves, and when people get all jump around my first Boilermaker, and I see they're doing the 5K, I'm like, no, you're not.
I think Daniel Tosh has like a stand up where he's talking about half marathons. He was like, I just read a half a book. Shut it.
Yeah.
Congratulations, right?
That's funny. All right. Now, speaking of books, one book that changed the way you think.
Oh, it's probably any one of the books I read in law school. I mean, every single one of them I hated, but it made you think critically and think I can't wait to get this done with. But I don't think I have any particular. I guess recently I read Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. That's a good one. Great.
You got to listen to that one though.
Yeah, I did both actually because I was like,
his
am I gonna miss
voice
something?
reading the book is just amazing.
It really is cool. And he said something in there that I actually tell my daughter every once in a while, and it's don't say I can't, say I'm having trouble with. And it really is that if you just say I can't, you're not going to ever do it. But if you say I'm having trouble with it, invite someone either to give you advice, whether it's right or wrong, but it's problem solving, right?
Yeah.
So, that was a real good book.
Yeah.
And reading or listening to the book regardless.
First job you ever had?
I think I worked at dietary at St. Elizabeth's Kitchen, and I realized if you take one of those real big commercial sprayers and you have a ladle full of soup, it's not going to work out well for you. Like squash all over my face.
Yeah, for $3 an hour. Right?
Yeah, minimum wage is like $4.25 at that point or something.
We are at the same age. That was my first job, $4.25. Pumping gas at Clifford Fuel. Speaking about being outside, maybe that's why I hate winter.
I delivered papers.
Before
so,
credit cards, like trying to make change and your fingers were numb. And
talk about being ancient. I delivered newspapers. Like,
the paper girl.
Do people even read newspapers anymore? Go ahead.
All right. So we didn't talk about anything legal. We kind of danced around it, but you are an attorney.
I am an attorney, yeah.
What legal advice do you wish every client knew or every person knew?
Get insurance. Right? House
plug.
insurance, car insurance, right? There's great attorneys out there. There's the sharks out there. But, I mean, if you live your life the way you should, negligence happens. But if you're covered with insurance, you're going to be all right. But, I mean, seek advice before you do things. It doesn't have to be from an attorney, but, I think
should
that's
be.
well, legal
I'll
advice,
say it.
certainly. But that person might say, you better talk to a lawyer about that first.
Yeah.
But, there's no catch-all, I guess.
Don't take financial advice from broke people. That's
This is, yeah,
you got to be careful where you get your advice.
Yeah,
never trust a
exactly.
skinny chef or a barber with a bad haircut. Right?
Hidden gem in Utica people should check out.
I don't know if enough people go to Lotus Garden because every time I'm there, it seems like nobody else is, which I'm excited about because the food comes out faster. But Lotus Garden over there by the Stanley is really good sushi, and you can get lychee martinis and stuff. So it's I think that might
It is
be
a cool
one.
little spot.
Yeah.
It's a neat spot, and it's hidden.
Yeah.
It's right on Genesee Street, but it's tucked back behind the Stanley, and people forget about it. But yeah, good tip. We forget about it all the time too. We forget about Joey's 307 for the same reason. It's kind of tucked away there.
I know. I know.
And we get caught up in that. I guess the location does matter, right? Because when you're on like the main, streets, the stuff
not
you
on the
see all
forefront of
the
your
time,
mind,
we automatically think
absolutely.
about. But all right, last one. What's next for Colin LaReaux?
I mean, today, I think it's continuing to, grow the real estate business, but, slowly in a kind of a calculated way. So there's no particular plan. It's not a one size fits all. It's, what can I do with the next option? And again, to your point about selling the place or not, or what do we do with it? It's, we're going to sell one, we're refinancing a couple. So it's kind of keeping, a couple arrows in the quiver so that when there's a target, we can fire away.
Great advice. This one was loaded with golden nuggets. Appreciate your time with us, and this will be one that Jay's gonna have to do a lot of work to link up all of your websites and things you're involved with. But we'll make it happen so people can
Appreciate
connect
it.
with you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.